G'day guys, Fitcho here and welcome back to my F1 2018 Ferrari career mode. We're here for episode number 8 and the French Grand Prix, the biggest unknown of this season, of course, the brand new track to Formula 1 in the 2018 season, and I have no idea how I'm going to perform around this circuit. At most tracks I know coming into the weekend, if it's a track that suits me or it doesn't, if it's one I can overtake well on, or if I struggle with the tyres, all that sort of stuff. But this round is a huge unknown on the calendar, and it's going to be really interesting to see how this Grand Prix does play out. Of course, we are starting right at the back, and hopefully we can bounce back from what was a catastrophic weekend by our standards at the previous round in Canada, where our podium streak came to an end when we ended up in the Wall of Champions just 4 laps from the end of the Grand Prix. Now, looking at the race strategy for today, it looks like it's going to be a one-stop race for us, starting on the super soft tyres and switching to the softs around the midpoint of the Grand Prix. And looking at the other strategy it is presenting us, that starts on ultras and goes supers. I wouldn't be surprised if I see the top 10 going on the strategy like that, some of our competition. So again, I feel like this race could be one where we play ourselves in by going longer on the tyres, trying to take a stop out of this Grand Prix. But I guess we're going to have to wait and see how our pace goes, see if we can work out how to overtake at this French Grand Prix. A lot of unknowns, like I did say. Now, before we do jump into the Grand Prix, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you do subscribe with notifications on, so you know when every episode of this series does go live. But without further ado, let's head to the race. Here we go, we're on the grid at Paul Ricard. The lights are coming on. We've got 5 red lights. And it's lights out, and away we go. The French Grand Prix is underway again. We get a fair bit of wheel spin off the line, still yet to master those starts in a Formula 1 car as we head down towards turn number 1. Right in behind the 2 Williams, not really much we can do right now. We're going to go for a nice late apex off turn number 2, and we get the run up the inside of both the Williams. Maybe hanging back through the turns 1 and 2 has actually helped us quite nicely. He's up the inside of Marcus Ericsson. We do go turn to the outside form this left-hander, but then it is the inside as we head down into the hairpin. Everyone backing up really badly as Hartley gets past Charles Leclerc. As through this long, tricky right-hander, we flick left now on to the Mistral straight into the slipstream of Charles Leclerc. This should be a simple move on the Alfa Romeo Sauber, and it is up his inside as we head down towards the chicane. We're going to be able to drift back onto the racing line. We had that much extra speed. We got that move done nice and early. And up next is Brendan Hartley, of course, a Honda power unit in the back of that Toro Rosso. That should make this overtake fairly easy, but not quite close enough down into this flat-out right-hander. Keep it absolutely pinned, possibly up the inside. We will go down into turn number 11, and yes, we do. We swoop up his inside, and we take away 15th place. And up next is Stoffel Van Dorn. There's Pierre Gasly, and it looks like the other McLaren of Fernando Alonso. So a few cars that definitely have inferior power units to what we have in the back of this Ferrari. So these next few overtakes shouldn't be all that challenging. As through the final few corners we do go. I thought about diving up the inside of the hairpin, but not quite close enough there on Stoffel Van Dorn as Lewis Hamilton gets the fastest lap at the end of lap number 1. We have a massive run on Stoffel Van Dorn. We pull out up the inside. What should be a very simple overtake is down into turn number 1 we go. He tries to hang it around our outside, but there's no way that is going to work for the young Belgian. Now up next is Pierre Gasly. Can we get up his inside at turn number 3? We do have a good run. We're going to look up the inside, wash very wide, just keep it on the road. A big block pass there, and we get that done. Now Fernando Alonso is next in our sights, and then it is our teammate Sebastian Vettel. He qualified on the front row of the grid, but he did actually take, I'm not too sure what he was saying there. I wasn't really listening to Jeff, but it sounded somewhat important. We have a massive run on Fernando Alonso. We're going to look up his inside, down into the chicane. There's a spinning Grosjean. We're going to go around the outside and get past our teammate. So lucky there with the way that car spun, that the gap just opened us for us to sneak past. And that is our teammate who got caught up there, had nowhere to go in behind Romain Grosjean. Now, like I was saying, he took a grid penalty. He qualified on the front row of the grid, but started out of 12th place, I do believe, and he promoted Daniel Ricciardo up to the front row of the grid. Not too sure what the grid penalty is for, unfortunately, and now we are going to set our sights on Roman Grosjean. It must have been Kevin Magnussen that did spin. It did look like a Haas. And Brendan Hartley is out of the Grand Prix. So is Charles Leclerc. And one more driver, and that is Marcus Ericsson. 3 drivers out, and surely that is going to trigger a safety car. It doesn't look like it. 3 drivers out of the Grand Prix, and not even a VSC, which is a little bit crazy as we get to the end of lap number 2, and we're already up into the top 10 after that chaotic lap. And our teammate has dived into the pit lane. I will assume that is for a new front wing, as we have a big run on Grosjean up the inside turn number 3, and we get that move done. A very simple overtake. And up next is another French driver here at the French Grand Prix. I just realized, of course, Romain Grosjean, he does race under a French flag, even though he is born in Switzerland and lives in Switzerland to this day, I do believe. I was listening to the F1 podcast, and apparently that was so he could get a deal with Renault, as they wanted a French driver because he had dual citizenship. He decided to race under the French flag instead of his Swiss flag. And that does make this his home Grand Prix. And another man, this home Grand Prix, it is Esteban Ocon. And we're going to try to chase down that Pink Panther and take away that 8th place. We are really catching up to Esteban Ocon, but I used up all my battery. I was down to about 7%, so I'm trying to save it up just a little bit here. But we have a nice run out of 1 and 2. Can we possibly go for that same move up the inside of turn number 3? Yes, we do. He tries to block us off, but he left just a big enough gap, and we pounce and take away that 8th position. And now it looks like we have Carlos Sainz in the factory Renault up next on the circuit. Right, we now have the Renault of Hulkenberg in our sights. He got caught up with Sergio Perez at the chicane on the previous lap. We have a massive run out of 1 and 2. He tries to go defensive, but there is enough of a gap up the inside of turn number 3, and we get that move done. That is definitely our favourite move here at Paul Ricard so far. A nice cheeky move up the inside turn number 3. We get that done into 7th place now, and now we have his teammate Carlos Sainz just up in front of us. Oh, we have yellow flags. We head down into the chicane, and that is Daniel Ricciardo off at the chicane. Not too sure what has happened there with the Aussie. Is he going to remain in this race? The car was slowly moving. I assume that was just waiting for traffic to get out of the way, and we are back to green flag racing conditions. We're now right on the back of Sainz and Perez down into turn number 11, gaining a lot on Sainz. We can't really do anything into this tricky double apex right-hander there. We're just going to have to wait, most likely till the pit straight, possibly launch something up the inside at the final hairpin. I'm not too sure. We definitely have a lot of pace on these 2 cars ahead, so we can afford to be a little bit patient and make sure we do get a nice clean move done on the pair of them, and that is what I think we're going to do. Through the hairpin, we do go now out on to the DRS straight up into overtake mode. DRS flap open on our Ferrari. DRS flap also open up on that Renault because of Sergio Perez. We're going to go to the outside down in to turn number 1, because that's going to give us the inside for turn 2. We go very, very wide, compromising our run. He's still going side by side with us, but I think we do have the run. We have the inside line nonetheless down in to turn number 3, and we get that move done. Now up into what is currently 4th place. Of course, Ricciardo also spinning, and now if we get past Perez, we're going to be up into a podium place. That also says either one of them, either Verstappen or one of the Mercedes has made a pit stop in the early phase of this Grand Prix, but we're not too fussed about that right now. We have DRS on Sergio Perez. We blast past him so easily, and we get that move done as Verstappen up next on the circuit, going a bit deep into that chicane, and it looks like it will be a Mercedes in front of him, but I don't know which Mercedes, unfortunately. There goes Verstappen and that Mercedes both into the pit lane. That was Valtteri Bottas. So we have inherited the lead of this Grand Prix on lap number 7 of 27. This race is going quite well for us, I will admit. We've got through the field really quickly. We've seen Vettel and Ricciardo both get caught up in collisions. Another Haas, of course, with that Vettel collision. We somehow managed to avoid that. Very luckily, I will add, and that just made a very easy double overtake for us. Of course, Ricciardo, another car we didn't really have to overtake, and it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of this Grand Prix does unfold, because we only have 1 stop to make, and I assume these guys pitting this early are definitely going to have to go for a 2 stop, so I feel like, unfortunately, this could be a cruise for us right to the end. I'm not too sure. We're going to have to wait and see. Right, end of lap number 12, and we're going to be coming into the pit lane for our one and only stop of this Grand Prix, and I've never done the pit entrance here at Paul Ricard, so this is going to be interesting. It's a very strange pit entrance, I will admit, here at Paul Ricard. We get through there, alright, into the Ferrari pit box. We go off, go the super softs, on go the soft tyres. A decent stop, 2.6. Not going to complain too much about that. It's going to be interesting to see where we do filter back into this race. We built out a huge margin over Grosjean and Alonso, the two other cars that are going on the same strategy as us. It is a very long pit exit here, or pit lane, and there goes Lewis Hamilton past us down the pit straight, and we slot out in between him and Valtteri Bottas. He's on the super soft tyres. He would have been on the ultras on the first stint of this Grand Prix with how early he did stop. So that says to me he's definitely going to make another stop in this Grand Prix, and we're already this close to him on fresher tyres in a Mercedes sandwich. Both of them are on super softs, and neither, I'd say, are going to the end of the Grand Prix, whereas we are. So I feel like this is going to be an easy Grand Prix victory for us. I don't want to say too much too early, touch wood, but, you know, I don't feel like there's much competition coming at us right now with looking at how these strategies are playing out. Right, we are within DRS of Lewis Hamilton, so we have that flap open to help us defend from Valtteri Bottas, who is right there behind us. He is on a softer compound tyre, however, it is a little bit older than our soft tyre that we've obviously just bolted on the last lap, and of course we're still getting temperature in at these tyres and getting them into the working window, and we're starting to now gain up to Lewis Hamilton as we get these soft tyres working in our favour. What can we do through this difficult right-hander back on the power? We flick left on to the straight as our teammate is now into the pit lane. Open the DRS flap. I'm not even going to bother with overtake mode. I've got it in high, and that's plenty as we blast past that Mercedes. That was far too easy, and we're back into the lead of this French Grand Prix. We're going to the end, and I don't think these two behind us are, so we're in a very comfortable position in this Grand Prix simply by actually starting last. It looks like it might have been a blessing in disguise in this Grand Prix on the strategy front. There we go, fastest lap of the Grand Prix on that particular lap. We did have DRS down 2 straights to help us out and a bit of a slipstream, and these soft tyres seem to be working quite nicely for us and getting in a nice rhythm with them, and we are starting to pull away a little bit from those Mercedes, as it looks like we have a first little bit of traffic up ahead of it, and of course it is one of the Williams. Right, our first bit of traffic for the day is the 2016 Euro F3 champion. As we set another fastest lap of the Grand Prix, is Lance going to get out of our way down into turn number 1? No, he is not at all. Through turn number 2, and now he gets out of the way. I guess he should be used to being a back marker by now, to be fair. It's his second season in a Williams, but still, that is a little bit frustrating. We're not going to complain too much. We're in a position where I don't really feel like we have the right to complain about back markers. Our race is going that comfortably. We definitely could have done a better job of getting out of our way. Oh, it looks like Valtteri Bottas has made an overtake on his teammate there, Lewis Hamilton, so a bit of fighting between the two Mercedes, and this is interesting. Of course, Bottas is our main championship rival at this early phase of the season. However, Hamilton could still come back, but it looks like Bottas is making a point getting ahead of his teammate. I assume that it was probably a fair fight. No team orders in the game, or especially not this early in the season, but this is definitely better for Bottas and better for keeping the championship close, as it looks like we're still in a position where we're going to run away with today's Grand Prix. Right, so it is now saying Sergio Perez is in third place, so I'd say that means that Lewis Hamilton has come in for his second pit stop of today's Grand Prix, and that means Bottas is probably going to be pitting at the end of this particular lap. And Sergio Perez finds himself in a podium place, but he is also on the super soft tyre. So I'd say he is going to be pitting again. But what we have to keep our eyes on, I believe it was Grosjean and Alonso. Both of them started on the super soft with myself, so they're probably also running around on the soft tyre. Where are they going to be in the order? Looking at the mini-map, it does look like there is a McLaren ahead of a Mercedes on track coming down the Mistral Straight towards the chicane, so that could be interesting. Could we see one of those back markers also playing themselves into podium, or not back markers, midfield teams, playing themselves into podium contention by going for the same one-stop strategy that I am going on here? Right, so both Bottas and Perez are now into the pit lane for their second stop of the Grand Prix, and I'm just watching, eagerly waiting to see who does take that second and third spot. And there is Romain Grosjean jumping both of them up into second place, and he is also on the soft tyre. And Fernando Alonso, both the guys I was talking about, both the guys going with the same strategy as me. Could we see these two standing on the podium and see an absolutely mental podium at this French Grand Prix? It depends how quick those Mercedes are and how quickly. Oh, there he goes. Hamilton's already passed Alonso just like that. So maybe that dream is already coming crashing down. But nonetheless, it will be crazy to see those two on the podium. Only 2.5 seconds separating Grosjean and Hamilton. So I'd say fresh super soft tyres and a Mercedes versus a Haas. Grosjean's definitely fighting an uphill battle there, and I'd say we're going to see both the Mercedes joining us on the podium. Unfortunately, not seeing anything too crazy. And there we go. Lewis Hamilton is now past Romain Grosjean. I do believe Bottas has already passed Alonso, so he's going to be coming after the Frenchman very, very soon. It looks like no dream home podium for Romain Grosjean today, unfortunately. There we go, Bottas has now overtaken Romain Grosjean, so definitely no home podium for Romain Grosjean today. It looks like it's going to be Ferrari, followed by two Mercedes. There's still 7.5 laps to go, so we never know what might happen. We might see a late race safety car really throwing a spanner in the works, but if it all goes green to the end, this should be a fairly comfortable win for myself. We have 25 seconds over the Mercedes duo right now. Right, we have 3 laps left of this French Grand Prix, and we are still so comfortably out in the lead of this Grand Prix. And it looks like Max Verstappen has now made an overtake on Valtteri Bottas for that final spot on the podium, which is just going to help our championship even further. Of course, Bottas, our closest rival so far, the only other double winner in this season, as we are on track to become a triple winner, of course winning in Monaco and winning in Baku. Only one more corner to navigate through the hairpin. We do go back on to the power and up to the line we go to win the French Grand Prix and set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix in the process. I do believe I had big margins, so I thought why not go for the fastest lap as well. Charged up my battery and saved up a little bit of fuel, and a very convincing race win. That turned out to be a walk in the park, really. Starting from last, we fought through the field early on. That wasn't too bad. We made really good progress. You can race actually quite well around the circuit, I did find, and then our strategy just put us miles ahead of anyone else. The two stoppers just could not compete with the one stop. It was by far the superior strategy today at this Grand Prix.
And some exciting passes.
Well, I'm thoroughly exhausted after the excitement of that race, but I'm sure it's nothing compared to our drivers here. They've worked hard to make it up there, and it's great to see them make their way out onto the podium.
So there we have it. I have won the French Grand Prix by 26 seconds over Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. Then you have Romain Grosjean there in 4th place, making his way up from 10th on the grid, also going for that one-stop strategy. Perez, Hulkenberg, and Bottas coming in 5th, 6th, and 7th. Not too sure what happened to Valtteri in the closing stage of that Grand Prix. He was sitting in 3rd place, but he dropped all the way down to 7th. Fernando Alonso also going for that one-stop, coming home in 8th, ahead of Carlos Sainz and Daniel Ricciardo, rounding out the points in the Red Bull. Of course, he was caught up in an incident that I didn't see, and hopefully I found on the replay cameras for you guys to see. Esteban Ocon just out of the points. Our teammate Sebastian Vettel in at 12th place, of course, caught up with Kevin Magnussen early on, and he also had a grid penalty, meaning he started out of 12th position. Gasly, Van Dorn, Magnussen, Sirotkin, and Lance Stroll round out our finishers. Then, of course, Brendan Hartley and both the Saubers did not finish today's Grand Prix. Not the most interesting race, I will admit. Probably the most boring race of the season to date so far out of the 8 rounds we've had, but that's what happens in racing sometimes. You know, you have some great races and you have some less interesting races. Every race can't be super entertaining, and unfortunately today wasn't one of those entertaining races, but nonetheless a lot of positives to take out on my behalf. A great strategy there and great pace throughout the entire Grand Prix. And that's also going to solidify our position in the lead of the championship, now back out to 38 points over Valtteri Bottas as Max Verstappen makes his way up into 3rd place. So he was already in 3rd place, I do apologize, but really closing up on Bottas, only 1 point separating those two, with Lewis Hamilton a further 4 points behind him. Our teammate Vettel has really fallen down the order, down into 5th place, 83 points only to his name, 61 points behind myself, and Ricciardo continuing to struggle. He's had a lot of bad luck throughout this season. That championship position, unfortunately, isn't down to his raw pace, but he is the only driver in the top 6 to have not won a Grand Prix so far, and he sits with 63 points to his name, 81 off myself, with Hülkenberg in the best of the rest position. Ocon, Sainz, Perez rounding out the top 10, with Leclerc now dropping out of the top 10 after being there for quite a while since Baku, and jumping across to the Constructors. Our position isn't that strong in the Constructors because Vettel really did struggle today with Mercedes getting 2 cars in the points, but still a 20-point advantage over the Silver Arrows, with Red Bull in 3rd place, 59 points behind us. That's very, very close between Renault and Force India over that best of the rest spot. Renault holding the advantage by 3 points currently. So that is part 1 of the triple header done. Next up we head to Austria, to the Red Bull Ring, a track I really, really do like, and a track with a lot of overtaking opportunities, and I think that is definitely another opportunity for us to add a 4th victory to our tally of 3 so far after Baku, Monaco, and here in France. And if we just jump across to the season results, we have the championship standings in front of us. You can see where everyone has finished through every race of the season, and you can see, other than Canada, I have been quite consistent. Like Bottas, he struggled in Azerbaijan, and here in France we look at Verstappen, he struggled in Australia, for example. Hamilton a DNF in China and an 8th in Spain. Then we look at Vettel, he had a 12th in Azerbaijan and a 12th here. And then Ricciardo, who's been probably the most unlucky of them all, DNF in Australia, 14th in Canada and 10th in France. You can see through consistency, we are definitely the best driver so far. We've been on the podium every race but Canada so far, and that's something we want to keep up, keep getting podiums throughout the rest of the season. And I think the 2 next races are great opportunities for us. 2 tracks I really do like, especially Austria, and I'm definitely looking forward to that weekend. But that is going to do it for today, guys. If you guys have enjoyed this video, make sure you do leave a like on it. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you do subscribe with notifications on so you know when every episode of this series does go live. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you later.